Part 53. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 521. We have signed a contract, and the connection you feel with me is the power of the contract. When the contract between us is completed, your lifespan will be taken away from me, and you will die. But your hatred will be fulfilled. The middle-aged man looked at Lin Yi, who looked calm, with a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes. As long as you can help me take revenge, death is nothing. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Now that you are mentally prepared, let's get started. Where does your enemy live? Take me there. I have temporarily treated your wounds and it should not affect your movements. The man nodded. He could feel that his body had recovered a lot. He slowly stood up from the ground. The wound on his abdomen had stopped bleeding and was slightly glued together. As long as he didn't do strenuous exercise, there should be no problem. After standing up, he took a deep breath, then raised his head. A fierce light flashed in his eyes. He was wearing black jeans and a black t-shirt. But at this time, there were traces of blood and tatters on the front of the t-shirt. He turned to look at Lin Yi. Sir, I don't know what kind of existence you are, but I will definitely fulfill my promise, as long as you can help me get revenge. His decisive tone expressed his determination. He knew how powerful his enemy was, and if he relied on himself alone, he would never be able to take revenge. Death will be your only fate. And with King Baquan's strength in the city, he can't escape at all. Sooner or later he will be found and killed. As for reporting to the official, that's even more impossible. King Baquan is like heaven and earth in this White Dragon City, and even the government has to turn a blind eye. This is a world with supernatural power, and those with power are always at the top. Lin Yi looked at the man. By the way, I haven't asked your name yet. The man looked at Lin Yi and whispered, Sir, just call me Wang Lu. Wang Lu? That's fine. Please show us the way. Let's go there. Wang Lu was stunned for a moment. Why don't we hide for a while and then go there? Lin Yi glanced at him, and the aura of the earthly immortal way flashed across his body. Do you think I need it? At this time, Wang Lu felt the aura on Lin Yi's body flashing past, and his expression suddenly changed drastically, as if he had seen something incredible. He looked at Lin Yi with his mouth wide open. Degeneran, how is it possible? Lin Yi glanced at him and said, Let's go. If you have any questions, let's talk on the way. At this time, Wang Liu's face showed joy, and he knew that he would be able to take revenge. Everyone in this world knows the horror of Degeneran. That is the existence of one person against the country. The two of them walked out of the alley, and Wang Lu and Lin Yi walked slowly in one direction. Wang Lu led the way without saying a word, and Lin Yi followed him, walking slowly. Tell me about the state of cultivation here. Yes, sir. The levels of cultivation here are divided into 4 realms: body training, chi training, soul training, and unity. Refining the body is called an apprentice, practicing chi is called a warrior, the soul is called a real person, and the unity is called a great real person. My enemy, King Baquan, is a powerful man at the peak of his soul. There are 2 worshippers of the same level in his mansion who are supported by their families. Among them, body training is mainly about the physical strength of training. Along the way, Lin Yi learned in detail about the levels of cultivation in this world from Wang Lu. Basically there is no difference from the Red Lotus realm, it's just a different name. However, the highest person in this world seems to be called Degeneran, which is the Earth Immortal level. There are only a few people in the entire blue starfish. This is a planet. The technology of this world is very advanced. Satellites have been launched. They have learned the truth about the universe and know that the world they are in is just a planet. But at the same time, there are also supernatural forces. These people control the economy and politics, and also control the power of science. They have all the power in their own hands and no one in this world can violate them. Originally, Wang Liu's family was also one of these powerful people, because there was a powerful person at the level of a divine soul in their family. But where there are rivers and lakes, there will naturally be battles. The strong men of their family were defeated in the battle with the Bai Xuanhuan family. In the end, their family was exterminated and he was the only one who managed to escape. But he was seriously injured and it was impossible to escape from the city. It was only a matter of time before he was discovered. It is precisely because he is in a desperate situation that he attracts the attention of the Wish Shrine and is willing to sacrifice his life for revenge, because he has no second way to choose. After Lin Yi figured out everything that happened to Wang Lu and his family, he knew what to do. 3 masters of the Ghost Immortal Dao level are not difficult to deal with. The 2 of them were walking struttingly on the street, and the surveillance cameras could completely see them. At this time, the news had reached King Baiquan's home. In the largest mansion in Bailong City, King Baiquan was listening to the butler's report. "Master, we have found traces of Wang Lu. He has brought a person and is approaching us. The person who comes is not good." King Baiquan sneered when he heard this. "Haha, just a last-ditch struggle. Since he wants to die, let him come, no one should stop him. I want to watch him die in despair, and the entire Wang family must be killed and their bloodline cut off." King Baiquan, a man who looks about 50 years old, has a face full of fat and looks very scary. There is no mercy in his eyes, only the cruelty of the law of the jungle. Although he is wearing a white suit, it cannot cover up his cruel nature. At this time, his housekeeper frowned and said slowly, "But master, the person next to him is very strange, we can't find any information." King Baiquan frowned. "What? Can't find? Outsider?" The housekeeper shook his head and said, "At least he is not from here. I guess he is a master invited by Wang Lu." King Baiquan sneered, "Master? What kind of master can he be? Is he as good as me? As long as he is not a great master, I am not afraid of anyone. My Shura flag is not a joke." As he said this, a small flag appeared in his hand, with a black flagpole and a triangular lacquered surface, engraved with countless strange patterns. It was a terrible monster. At this time, Wang Lu and Lin Yi had arrived at the gate of King Baiquan's mansion. At this time, in front of the gate of the mansion, several uniformed guards looked at the 2 of them with vigilant eyes. One of them seemed to recognize Wang Lu, and his eyes showed a trace of solemnity. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 522. His voice is deep and powerful, and he is at least a master at saying goodbye to immortals. Everyone, be careful. It's the 6th son of the Wang family. The head of the family is chasing him. I didn't expect him to come to our door." Hearing this, everyone was stunned, and the 8 guards in front of the door had a fierce look in their eyes. They were eager to try, walked out from the gate, and surrounded Lin Yi and Wang Lu. The person who made the sound just now is the one with the highest cultivation level among the 8 people. He has reached the pinnacle level of human immortality and is obviously the boss of this small group. Lin Yi glanced at them and looked at Wang Lu. "How do you want to take revenge?" Wang Liu's eyes flashed with a fierce look. "Sir, I don't care about other people, but King Baiquan must die." "Okay." As he spoke, Lin Yi glanced at the group of people around him. He had no intention of killing these people. With a thought in his heart, a colorful needle of brilliance appeared in front of him. With a thought, the 5 elements divine needle has brought forth a brilliant brilliance and passed away in a flash. It passed through the bodies of these 8 people, but the 5 elements divine needle only pierced their knees, causing them to kneel down in severe pain. "Ah! Damn it, this is a magic weapon. My legs, my legs." Screams, screams, and sounds of fear rang out. In just the blink of an eye, 8 powerful warriors appeared. There was even a master of human immortal Dao, and the 7 top-level gatekeepers all fell to the ground, completely losing their strength. "Let's go," Lin Yi's faint voice sounded in Wang Liu's ears, like a thunder, waking up the shocked Wang Liu. He naturally knows the power of the magic weapon, but if he wants to control the magic weapon so freely, he must at least be at the Ghost Immortal Dao level. Wang Liu felt excited in his heart. De Genren is too powerful. If he can take revenge, he will definitely take revenge. His eyes were filled with blood, and countless bloodshot eyes filled his eyes. He seemed to see the moment when his revenge was in sight. Lin Yi led Wang Liu straight through the gate of the mansion. At this time, the screams outside had already alarmed the people in the mansion. Behind the gate is a huge garden and road of hundreds of square meters. At this time, at the end of the garden road, at the entrance of a white mansion, a group of bodyguards in black suits had rushed out. There are at least 30 of them, and 10 of them are masters of the human immortal Dao. At this time, they were arranged neatly in the shape of a trumpet, staring at Lin Yi and Wang Liu with sharp eyes. At the same time, they seemed to be welcoming people coming out of the mansion. 3 figures quietly walked out of the mansion door. One of them was wearing a white suit and had a very majestic figure. Next to him were 2 people, one wearing a weird robe and the other wearing a casual t-shirt. The 3 of them looked to be around 40 years old, and each of them was filled with murderous intent. When Wang Liu saw the man in the white suit in the middle, his face turned red with grief and anger. "Sir, that's him, he is King Baiquan. Please make the decision for me to kill him, sir." Lin Yi smiled and said, "Don't worry, since you paid the price, I will definitely fulfill your wish." As he spoke, his eyes had already fallen on King Baiquan. Looking from afar, he saw a flash of light in his eyes, completely seeing through him. At this time, King Baiquan felt a chill all over his body, and he felt that the eyes of the person opposite him were too weird. For a moment, it seemed that he had seen nothing. "No, this is a master." King Baiquan's heart became solemn. Where is the master from? At least he is at the same level as me. Try him first. Thinking of this, King Baiquan laughed loudly. "I don't know what your relationship is with Wang Liu, but you stand up for him." Lin Yi looked at King Baiquan and smiled lightly. "I'm just using people's money to eliminate disasters." "Well, if that's the case, I'd pay 3 times the price for his life. Money can make all the difference. I think my price is higher than what he gave me." When Lin Yi heard this, a weird smile appeared on his face. "You are quite generous, but you can't pay." When King Baiquan heard this, a smile appeared on his face. "Ha ha ha, although I'm not too rich, there are really too few prices in this world that I can't afford. I'm curious, what price did he offer? Will I, the king of Baiquan, not be able to pay it?" King Baiquan's face was full of pride, and he did not believe that with his wealth, he would not be able to pay such a small price. Lin Yi's face was a little weird, and he turned to look at Wang Liu. "Why don't you tell him what price you paid and see what his expression looks like?" When Wang Liu heard this, a ferocious smile appeared on his face. "That's fine, if he is really willing to spend money to buy my life, I can't help but ask for it. King Baiquan, listen carefully, the price I pay is all my lifespan. If you want to bid 3 times, then you have to spend 3 times your own lifespan to buy my life. But can you take it out?" When King Baiquan heard Wang Liu's words, he was startled for a moment, and then his face suddenly condensed. "Are you kidding? Lifespan can also be used as a reward." Lin Yi looked at him and said calmly, "Nothing is impossible in this world. You think it's impossible just because you can't do it? This Wang Liu has used all his life to buy your life. You can't afford this price. I have something else to say, so I won't tell you any more. If you know what's good for you, just kill yourself." King Baiquan's face was livid. He felt that the 2 people in front of him were just playing tricks on him, and a trace of anger appeared on his face. "Hee hee, good, Very good, it's been a long time since anyone dared to play tricks in front of me. In that case, you guys go to hell. Do it. As soon as the voice fell, more than 30 bodyguards beside him all took out their black pistols and light machine guns and aimed at the two people. Seeing the modern weapons taken out by the opposite side, Wang Liu's face changed. Sir, hide quickly. Lin Yi didn't care at all. Don't worry. At this moment. Bang, bang, bang. A burst of gunfire rang out. One bullet after another streaked through the air, raising a hot airflow. At this time, a colorful and brilliant light flashed in the air. In an instant, all the bullets exploded in the air with countless sparks, and metal fragments bloomed like fireworks. Horror, boundless horror. All the bullets in the air were pierced by the five elements divine needle and shattered in an instant. This method was incredible, like a miracle. The faces of the gunmen changed drastically, looking at Lin Yi in the distance as if they had seen a ghost. The White Spring King also had an incredible look on his face, his eyes were about to pop out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 523. A magic weapon can actually intercept bullets, this is simply a myth. He only knows one kind of person who can do this, that is the Great Immortal. Impossible, how is it possible? Great Immortal. King Baequan was shocked by his own thoughts, and his heart was full of fear. At this time, colorful light flashed in front of his eyes, and shrill screams came from both sides. He looked to the side, and his pupils shrank. All the gunmen, their palms were all pierced, and the guns in their hands exploded in an instant. These people fell to the ground with their hands covered, and there were countless exploded fragments on their chests. How is it possible? He knew the power of the magic weapon very well, but he had never seen such a fast magic weapon. At this time, a creepy crisis came to him. Without any hesitation, a big flag rose from behind him. A black light instantly opened up and blocked his body. At the same time, the two worshippers next to him also showed their magical powers. The man in the strange robe was surrounded by a faint dark green light, and there were strange traces in the light. The man in the t-shirt next to him had a golden shield in front of him, and a golden light wrapped him. Dang dang dang. The next moment, the three of them had distortions on their protective light. The colorful light kept flashing, and it looked very scary. At this time, they could feel that it was the five elements divine needle attacking them. Every time they collided, they could see the consumption of their essence. The three people's faces changed drastically, looking at Lin Yi who was motionless in the distance. A magic weapon forced them to use defensive magic weapons. I only heard King Baequan roar, "Hurry up, otherwise we will die if we continue." His two worshippers were all condensed when they heard his words, and then they quickly made a choice. The worshipper in the strange robe had a mysterious talisman paper in his hand. The next moment, the talisman paper emitted a faint yellow light that enveloped him. Then his body suddenly sank into the ground and disappeared in the blink of an eye. And the man in the t-shirt was filled with a strange wave. The next moment he disappeared here, and the two priests chose to run away and left King Baequan here. This instant change made King Baequan's face change drastically. Damn it, how dare you? But no one answered him, the moment they felt that Lin Yi might be a great immortal. The two priests had already made a choice, they were not interested in accompanying King Baequan to die. At this time, Lin Yi had come to King Baequan without knowing when. He even passed through the defensive magic weapon power of King Baequan in one step. Seeing Lin Yi suddenly appearing in front of him, King Baequan's face showed fear. Go to hell, he was terrified, and he mobilized all his strength to smash Lin Yi, wanting to make a last stand. His hands were covered with a layer of dark power, full of corrosiveness. The two palms were like two black eagle claws, grabbing Lin Yi's chest. But unfortunately, Lin Yi's move was faster than him. A golden palm had silently appeared on the chest of King Baequan. Crack! With a slight sound, the terrifying force rushed into his body, instantly destroying all the bones, meridians, and muscles in his body. In an instant, King Baequan lost his resistance and lay on the ground unable to move. The Shura period above his head also fell at the same time, losing the source of power. At this time, Wang Lu had already trotted over. He looked at King Baequan, who was lying on the ground and unable to move, and rushed up with red eyes. He waved his hands, full of energy, and madly bombarded King Baequan's whole body. "Go to hell, go to hell, go to hell. This is my sister's, this is my father's, this is my mother's, this is my son's, this is my nephew's." The angry voice echoed in Wang Liu's mouth, and he called the names of all the relatives who were killed. His fists were like heavy hammers, constantly falling on King Baequan's body. The beating made Baequan Wang unable to make a sound. Even the human immortal's body and bones were quickly shattered, muscles were broken, and internal organs were collapsing. As a ghost immortal, Baequan Wang, who had almost condensed his 3 souls and 7 spirits, was completely unable to use the power of his 3 souls and 7 spirits. Because his soul had been sealed by Lin Yi's power, his only fate was to be smashed to death by Wang Lu. Blood gushed out and flowed everywhere. In the end, Baequan Wang couldn't even struggle, he could only stare at his eyes and die. Even his 3 souls and 7 spirits could only dissipate sadly, unable to make any counterattack. It was not until a few minutes after his death that Wang Lu stopped his fists. Hoo-hoo! He panted heavily, venting his anger. At this time, watching his enemy who had killed his family die, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. "Revenge, I've avenged you. Let's reunite as a family down there." As he spoke, a hint of determination flashed in his eyes, and he turned to look at Lin Yi. "Sir, I've avenged, you can take my life." Lin Yi looked at Wang Lu in front of him, and there was no desire to live in his eyes. His family was broken, and he had nothing to worry about. He sighed slightly, "You probably haven't buried your family yet." Hearing Lin Yi's words, Wang Lu suddenly shuddered. He then remembered that after being exterminated by King Baequan, he didn't know how his family members' bodies were dealt with. Lin Yi looked at him and said slowly, "I'll leave you 2 years of life, you can deal with your family's affairs yourself." Hearing Lin Yi's words, Wang Liu's eyes lit up, took a deep breath, bowed respectfully and "Thank you for your mercy, sir." Lin Yi shook his head, "I've never been merciful, it's just a little effort." Contract completed. As his voice fell, an invisible force descended from thin air and instantly fell on the person in front of him. Wang Lu aged at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the life in his body seemed to be being extracted. Time passed by minute. In just a dozen seconds, Wang Lu seemed to have aged dozens of years and turned into an old man. But he was not dead yet, he still had 2 years to live. With the flow of his own energy, he could at least live like a middle-aged man and would not be old and weak. At this time, Lin Yi had a pure white, thumb-sized crystal in his hand. It has a lifespan of about 100 years and can be used by anyone. Lin Yi's eyes fell on Wang Lu. "Our contract is complete here, you can go and settle your family's affairs. There are some problems with the storage, and there is another update today. The House of Everything I Created." Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 524. Wang Lu looked at his aging body, with a trace of sadness, a trace of fear, and a trace of confusion in his eyes. But this was the price he had to pay for asking Lin Yi to take action. He had nothing to say about the price of revenge. Taking a deep breath, Wang Lu looked at Lin Yi with his old face, and said slowly in an increasingly hoarse voice, "Thank you, sir, for avenging me. Ling Ai nodded slightly, then let me send you out, so that no one will cause trouble for you. As he said this, he grabbed Wang Liu's shoulders, and his boundless power flashed through. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. The next moment, he disappeared into the Bai family's mansion. At this time, the Bai family has become a mess. The death of the family and the escape of the two priests plunged the entire Bai family into complete chaos. No one cares about who did these things anymore. The next thing the Bai family will face is the attack from other forces in the city. A beast that loses its sharp claws is equivalent to turning into a sheep, and will naturally become the target of hunting. Countless hungry forces are eager to pounce on them and tear off a piece of flesh and blood. Standing on the street, Lin Yi looked at Wang Liu's hunched figure walking away, with an inexplicable emotion in his eyes. The weak have to pay a heavy price to get revenge. Otherwise, there will be no chance for revenge and no choice. Fortunately, you met me and gave you at least hope of revenge. Otherwise, your final outcome would be to die sadly in a corner. With despair and hatred, it will be dissolved into the long river of history without making a single wave. He watched Wang Lu disappear around the corner of the street before he looked back. A red door flashed behind him. Lin Yi shook his head, turned and left this world. Everything is very peaceful in the house of everything. Sitting quietly in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, the fifth ray of true life in his body had already lit up 50 rays at this time. All the strange powers gained recently have been transformed into the power of hand seals. There are still 315 steps left. It will be a long process, but as the number of strange existences increases, the speed at which I accumulate strength will also increase. Lin Yi's eyes revealed a hint of anticipation. At this time, no one knew that mysterious people had appeared in many cities in the Red Lotus realm. These people appear in hidden corners of one city after another. In these corners, there are black spheres one after another, filled with strange auras. All the cities in the Red Lotus Empire are without exception. And these people all have the same mark on their bodies, they all wear white gloves. In the huge hollow above the North Pole, a giant black egg is beating slowly. The figure inside slowly opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, Ai Ching had already noticed his awakening. He turned to look at the giant egg, and there was a trace of struggle in his eyes, which was the remaining humanity deep in his heart. Are you awake? The trial is about to begin. All human beings will welcome the final justice, and death will cleanse this dirty world. There was a trace of struggle in his cold eyes, and his humanity seemed to be shouting, "No, this is not fairness, this is destruction. Get the word out, get the word out." This is the voice coming from his remaining humanity, but this trace of humanity is so powerless that it cannot influence his current will at all. A cold voice sounded in Ai Ching's mind, "Let them begin, the final scene, the trial." Ai Ching nodded, "Yes, the great weird one." As he spoke, a mysterious ball appeared in his hand. The ball was filled with countless tiny shadows of the ball. If someone with trypophobia sees it, they will be very scared. The tiny balls are like eyes. Ai Ching held the ball in his left hand, with a cold light in his eyes, and he exerted force suddenly. Click click click. The ball was instantly covered with 5 color fragments, and then shattered. In the dark corners of cities around the world, these spheres were all shattered instantly. Small black holes appeared in cities one after another. Then, the strange black power surged out from it like a fountain. They spread rapidly along the sewers and spread toward the entire city. At first, these strange powers did not cause any changes. They just spread quietly and enveloped the lower part of the city along the passage. And soon, these strange powers came into contact with every dark corner of the city. The first to bear the brunt are various snakes, insects, rats, and ants, which mutate rapidly under the cover of strange power. They turned into various twisted monsters, climbing in the sewers, looking for a way out of the sewers. There are countless tombs all around the cities. Changes are also taking place in these tombs. One corpse after another is exposed to strange power. Whether they only have white bones or rotting corpses left, they are all beginning to become distorted. Corpses emerged from the ground one after another, and they slowly gathered and headed towards the city. In Honglian City, a quarrel was taking place in a family's home. The host and hostess angrily yelled at each other because of trivial matters in life. The woman's sharp voice sounded, "You useless thing, you only get 3,000 yuan a month. You need money for food, clothing, and children's schooling. You only know how to play games at home and do nothing. This life is unbearable. How could I be so blind to find a husband like you?" The husband was furious, "You sit at home and eat up all the money every day. Why don't you go to work? I want to support you too in this imperial city by myself. Don't you know it's very difficult? Every day you say that you do housework at home. Being a full-time housewife has delayed your work and future. Why don't you think about it? You used to be a clerk with a salary of 2 or 3,000 yuan. What future do you have? You have no future at all. Even if you work for a lifetime, it's just like this. What do you mean by being a full-time wife makes you lose your future? It's just an excuse. If you really go out to work, how far can you go? If you don't like me, then don't marry me. Don't you know what my situation is? Then why marry me? Because of love, isn't it? Because you can't find anyone better." When his wife heard what her husband said, her face suddenly turned ashen. Anger rose from the heart, and evil was born. The wife seemed to be crazy, waving her hands and rushing towards her husband. "You beast, how dare you say that to me?" At this time, the wife's face was ferocious, veins on her forehead emerged, and the whole person looked very scary. She grabbed her husband's neck with both hands, and the huge force made her husband fall to the ground. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 525. The wife suddenly pressed forward, pinching her husband's neck madly, and her nails even dug into the flesh of his husband's neck. A trace of blood was overflowing. No one noticed that a trace of strange power filled the room of this family. These strange powers floated out from the toilet bowl, filling the whole room like a ghost, invisible and invisible to ordinary people. The husband was obviously also affected. Facing his wife's crazy attack, he also stretched out his hands to pinch his wife's neck. "Go to hell, go to hell, go to hell. Crazy woman, I'm unlucky for marrying you. Die." The two pinched each other's necks madly, and their faces turned red because of blocked blood vessels. At this time, their child, a 7-year-old boy, hid in the corner and looked at them with fear. His eyes were full of fear, tears flowed from his eyes, and he cried loudly. "No, no. Don't fight, Mom and Dad." But his parents would not listen to him. They punched and kicked each other, and their heads were broken and bloody, and at the same time they were becoming very strange. Their bodies began to become slender and illusory, their 5 fingers began to become sharp, teeth grew in their mouths, their faces became distorted, and their hair kept growing. In a short time, they became like inhuman beings. They even grew new hands and feet on their bodies, as strange as dry bones. As they fought, their eyes fell on the boy in the corner. Then they suddenly pounced on the child. Ah! The screams rang out in the room. Blood flew everywhere, and after just a few seconds, there was only a pool of blood left where the boy had just been. The two mutated monsters wandered in the room, like corpses without souls. This change is constantly happening in various cities throughout the Red Lotus realm. Anyone who is full of negative emotions becomes the target of invasion by strange forces. In just 1 hour, all cities have undergone huge changes. Strange beings can be seen wandering on the streets, and at the same time, the silly battles between those warriors and the strange beings can be seen. A mess. Countless wails, screams, anger and roars were heard in various cities in the Red Lotus realm. It seemed that in an instant, the world entered a state of war. In Red Lotus City, I don't know where it started, and combat robots rushed out from all corners. Warriors in uniforms commanded these combat robots. Systematically attacked the strange beings that appeared on the streets. Above Red Lotus City, masters of the Ghost Fairy level flew into the sky with magic weapons. They quickly dispersed to various areas of Red Lotus City, and under their control, magic weapons launched attacks on some powerful strange beings on the ground. Relieving the pressure of the troops below and targeted killings, the situation in Red Lotus City was soon under control. In the Red Lotus City Council Hall, various high-level officials of the Red Lotus Empire have appeared here through projection. Among them, 9 governors reported the situation of each state with gloomy faces. The one who spoke at this time was Tongshenzi of the Northern Province. The situation in the Northern Province is very critical now. Under my strong suppression, the situation in the Arctic City is relatively stable. But most of the other cities have fallen into chaos and lost contact with us. The most critical situation now is the North Pole, which is the front line. The chaos in the Northern Province will lead to a certain gap in supply. Next, I need to do my best to stabilize the Northern Province and ensure the temporary stability of the supply on the front line. But with the current reserves in the Northern Province, it can only last for 7 days on the front line at most. After 7 days, the supplies will be exhausted. So there is not much time left for other provinces. You only have 5 days at most to deal with the strange invasion incidents in various provinces. In the remaining 2 days, you need to transport a large amount of resources to the Northern Province, otherwise you will not be able to catch up with the supply gap. Everyone present knew that once there was a problem on the Northern Front, the entire empire would collapse. When the nest is destroyed, there will be no eggs left. Officials like them who depend on the empire for survival have no possibility of survival. There is no second possibility except death. Thinking of this, some members of parliament were already cold all over. Someone suggested, "Mr. Prime Minister, we need to ensure the stability of supply as soon as possible. Allow some troops to protect key factories. Also ensure the safety of air and ground transportation forces. It is best to equip air and ground transportation with ghost immortals and combat robots." Everyone was a little anxious. Once there was a problem on the Northern Front, it would be a problem that no one could bear. Among the crowd, Xuanhuan of the Weird Object Management Office narrowed his eyes slightly, and the whole thing made him smell a conspiracy. The source investigation of this matter is left to the black-clothed man. I will notify the sect and the forces on the weird side to investigate this matter together. I suspect that the weird invasions that appeared in various cities are related to the white gloves. The purpose is to increase the pressure on the northern defense line. At the same time, let a large number of weird beings at the North Pole break through the blockade and sweep the world. When everyone heard Xuanhuan speak, their faces changed drastically. This was no joke. They realized that the strange existence in these cities might just be the beginning, and there might be something more terrifying. The news spread quickly to the Red Lotus realm, and people from all the major sects and the strange side received speculation and invitations from the empire. A search throughout the Red Lotus Empire began, and the white gloves instantly became the target of everyone's shouting. Various resources began to operate, searching for members of the white gloves one by one. At the same time, they also searched for the source of the strange existence in each city. Early in the morning of the second day, Lin Yi frowned and looked at the app in his hand. He had no idea that such a big thing had happened last night. On the streets outside, combat robots were patrolling, and a wartime tension permeated the entire Red Lotus city. From time to time, he could even hear some huge sounds appearing from time to time in various corners of the Red Lotus city. Obviously, the battle was still going on, and strange existences were still appearing in an endless stream. His brows frowned, and the light of the true destiny in his eyes flashed, instantly increasing the power to the maximum. Nothing in the world could stop his gaze, and his gaze swept towards the Red Lotus City. Then he discovered where the source of these countless strange beings came from. In the underground sewers, countless snakes, insects, rats and ants had all mutated into terrifying, twisted, and strange beings. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Xuanhuan Luan. Chapter 526. There were so many of them that they could be seen crawling and climbing everywhere in the sewers, but they did not rush out. Or they had no intention of rushing out yet. Because in the deepest part of the ground, where countless sewage gathered, in a small strange hole, something was coming out. At this time, he had only half of his body out, and the countless strange beings that had transformed into snakes, insects, rats and ants were guarding here. It seemed that they were waiting for the thing on the other side to pass. Lin Yi's face was solemn. He saw that the thing that was about to cross was at least at the level of the Earth Immortal Deo. Thinking of what was said on the phone, he couldn't help but frown. There are a total of 538 large and medium-sized cities in the entire Red Lotus Empire, and each city is now invaded by strange beings. If there is a hole leading to the strange world under all cities, and something is going to come out, that means more than 500 terrifying beings at the level of the Earth Immortal Deo. Who can resist? Thinking of this, Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. He could almost guess what would happen next. The entire Red Lotus realm will collapse, and no force can stop such a number of strange beings. In the sects, the Earth Immortals are all at the level of the Supreme Elders and the Headmasters. There are only 33 large sects in the entire Red Lotus realm, and each sect has no more than 5 Earth Immortal Masters on average. Added together, there are about 165, and the Red Lotus Empire has no more than 20 Emperor Immortal Masters. And the 3 major organizations on the weird side, countless small and medium-sized organizations, add up to probably only 100 people who can reach the Earth Immortal level of combat power. 300 at most is already dead. Moreover, the front line needs a lot of combat power, and no more than 150 can be drawn out to suppress each city. In other words, on average, every Earth Immortal level combat power must eliminate more than 3 Earth Immortal level weird beings, in order to suppress this disaster. This is impossible. Lin Yi's face was unprecedentedly solemn, and he exhaled deeply. He speculated that the Red Lotus realm might have reached a critical moment of life and death. If it cannot be suppressed this time, nearly half of the territory of the Red Lotus Empire will fall. The front line will also be under tremendous pressure, and those places that have fallen will breed more strange existences. They will even attack the front line, and it is only a matter of time before the front line, which is attacked from both sides, collapses. Thinking of this, his heart is heavy, and familiar people keep flashing in front of his eyes. Old Man Qian, Old Wei, Sakura Miyaswili, Huang Yiming, etc. He can leave in the face of disaster, but these people may be buried with the Red Lotus realm. Taking a deep breath, Lin Yi sighed deeply again. Notify them, I hope they can survive. Lin Yi is very pessimistic about the future of the entire Red Lotus realm. No one understands the horror of these strange existences better than him. He deals with these things almost every night. Once they are in number, they can destroy everything. Thinking of this, he edited a message and sent it to everyone he knew. There will be a huge change in the Red Lotus realm next. Be prepared and hide. I hope you can survive. At this time, he edited the second message and sent it to 2 people. One is Sakuramiya Shirley and the other is Huang Yiming. He has the most contact with these 2 people and has a good relationship with them. They are both powerful. Lin Yi told them that there is a hole deep underground that connects to the strange world, and that something of the earthly immortal level is coming out. Sakuramiya surely is at home at this time. The Sakuramiya family has been under martial law. All members and strong people belonging to their family have returned. The entire family is protected tightly to deal with the strange existence that may appear at any time. Ding dong. The sound of the mobile phone text message startled Sakuramiya surely. She picked up the phone and opened it. Her face froze, and then a trace of horror flashed across her. How is it possible? How did he know this? With a changing face, Sakuramiya surely immediately took out a mirror. This mirror is very simple, but the size of a palm, and it flashes with a faint fluctuation of a magic weapon. At this time, a stream of energy was injected into it, and the mirror surface quickly connected to an unknown place. A Taoist nun in a white Taoist robe appeared on the other side of the mirror. Her face looked about 30 years old, at the most beautiful age for a woman. "Surely, what's the matter?" Sakuramiya surely said solemnly, "I got the latest news from a friend. A hole connecting to the weird world appeared in the deepest part of the sewer of Honglian City. There is a weird existence of the earth immortal level trying to drill out. Countless creatures in the sewer have been infected by the weird power and become its guards. And the entire Honglian world has more than 530 cities. If a full-scale outbreak occurs, the whole world will fall." Lin Yi stated all his speculations in the message he sent to her, just to attract her attention. The Taoist nun on the other side of the mirror also changed her face when she heard this. "Is your information reliable?" Sakuramiya surely nodded, "Absolutely reliable." The Taoist nun's face was gloomy. She took a deep breath, and then said, "You also use your relationship to notify the officials of the Honglian Empire. I'm afraid everyone will have to move next, otherwise this game of chess can't go on." At the headquarters of the Men in Black, Huang Yiming was processing various information. He has now been transferred to be in charge of logistics, and his cultivation has just reached the first level of the human immortal path. Compared to the endless stream of geniuses, he has gradually become a nobody. Faced with the endless work, he felt a little depressed, but there was no way. In the system, he had to obey the arrangements. At this time, his cell phone suddenly rang, and he was slightly stunned when he saw the message on the phone. Then his face changed drastically. No way, how did he know? But thinking of Lin Yi's mystery, he put aside his doubts. If it's him, he shouldn't lie. If it's true, it would be a disaster. Thinking of this, he immediately stood up and was about to notify the upper echelons of the Men in Black. But soon he stopped and smiled self-deprecatingly. "Hey, I am a nobody and my words are not taken seriously. Who would believe me if I tell others? The Man in Black is no longer the Man in Black. He. Looking at the message on his phone, he muttered to himself, "Mr. Lin, thank you for thinking of me at this time. If you are destined to die, then everyone should wait together." Huang Yiming and Zhou Shen were both confused for some reason, with a faint negative emotion. A trace of strange power slowly floated out from the ground and merged into his body. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 527. He didn't realize that he was undergoing strange changes. His skin was turning pale, and his eyes were gradually turning darker. He was still holding a pen, writing something on his notebook. His expression was stiff, and he seemed to be lost in thought. At this time, Huang Yiming didn't notice his changes at all. Many people around the world are quietly undergoing this kind of change, and the unknown and weird are coming. The entire Red Lotus realm is leaning towards an unknown dangerous state. Lin Yi was thinking in the Wanchaiwu, with a trace of solemnity in his eyes. Zhenming Daija has conducted a comprehensive observation of Red Lotus City. The result of the analysis is very dangerous. He has a hunch that this time, it will not be as easy to solve as the previous weird invasion. This is an all-round invasion and penetration within the city, not outside the city. Various heavy weapons are basically unable to be used in the city. They can only rely on combat robots and martial arts masters to fight. This will cause a large number of casualties, and there are many ordinary people in the city who have no martial arts. There are still a lot of low-level weird things in the sewer, and the real crisis has not yet erupted completely. Taking a deep breath, Lin Yi looked at Brandy. Brandy, we have to sign a contract with power. In this way, you will be tacitly become a part of the Wan Shiwu, and then we can go to the unknown world. You will not be destroyed by the power of the unknown world. Brandy was standing aside and was stunned when he heard Lin Yi's words. But he immediately reacted, smiled, and said, "No problem, whatever you say, manager." Lin Yi raised his hand and waved, and a note appeared in his hand. He quickly wrote down some treaties and handed the note to Brandy. Take a look at the treaty above. Once it is concluded, it cannot be violated. After Brandy took Lin Yi's note, he carefully read the treaty above. The content is actually very simple, it is a pure employment contract. Lin Yi hired Brandy to work in the Wan Shiwu, the time is unlimited, and a certain amount of remuneration is paid every month as salary. Unless Lin Yi agrees, he cannot terminate this contract privately. After reading it, he took a pen from the counter and wrote his name. Lin Yi nodded when he saw this scene, since it has been decided, let's do it. As he said this, the note spontaneously commusted without wind and turned into ashes, and a wonderful power connected to Brandy. In Lin Yi's sight, all the items of the whole Wanchai will have been stained with the power of the strange core and become a whole. All preparations have been made, and we can jump to Kuro's world at any time. Let's take a look, time is running out. With the strange invasions in various cities of the Red Lotus Empire, the world is shrouded in the breath of impending storms. During the day, the sun of the Red Lotus realm shines on the whole world, and the heating sunlight contains wonderful power. All the strange beings dare not be exposed to the sun, because they will be evaporated by the power of the sun. During the day, they will only hide in dark corners, waiting for an opportunity to attack passers-by. At night, the strange beings will appear from the dark corners, triggering one terrifying killing after another. A day always passes quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was 8 o'clock in the evening and the sun had completely set. In Honglian City, wisps of strange power began to emerge. Ah, help me! There is a ghost. The terrifying and shrill cries sounded in every corner of Honglian City. After a day of fermentation, these strange existences finally began to appear on a large scale. The streets were full of warriors and combat robots. The moment they heard various screams, they had already rushed out. Some rushed to other people's homes, some rushed to the dark corners of the streets and houses, and some rushed into various buildings. A chaotic fight began, and in an instant, Honglian seemed to have become a battlefield. There was even a house that collapsed completely within a few minutes, and a strange existence that was more than 10 meters long and looked like a giant centipede lifted its body from the ruins. Roar! The terrifying and strange voice sounded in Honglian City, and countless people heard the howling outside. At the same time, a huge roar was heard outside Honglian City, which was the sound of various heavy weapons. Apparently, the strange beings hidden in the outside world seemed to be attracted and launched an attack on Honglian City. This was a very terrifying scene, full of killing and destruction everywhere, and the world became noisy in an instant. Lin Yi stood at the door of the Wanchaiwu, quietly watching the figures of various combat robots swaying left and right on the street, and fell into a trace of silence. In the Wanchaiwu, it was not peaceful at this time. Distorted space-time barriers began to appear continuously, and strange beings would come out from time to time. However, what awaited them was the siege of the maze puppets, and occasionally there would be ghost fairy-level beings. However, at this time, the 5 elements divine needle would suddenly appear and kill all the strange beings. Relatively speaking, the Wanchaiwu is one of the safest places in Honglian City. Time passed by minute by minute. Suddenly, the ground of Honglian City shook violently. Lin Yi looked towards the ground, and a mysterious figure emerged from the deepest hole. At this time, a man in an imperial uniform had appeared there. He was full of the terrifying aura of the earthly immortal. The second marshal of the empire, Yuan Long. However, his cultivation aura was very low, but he was at the peak of the human immortal. His strength lies in the strange power. He is a strong man with strange power. His body swelled rapidly, and countless black substances flowed out of his heart, covering every corner of his body. A huge layer of armor covered his body, and at the same time, his bones, muscles, and internal organs were all changing. The next moment, he had turned into a terrifying humanoid monster as tall as 5 meters, with deadly weapons all over his body. The thing that came out of the hole opposite him was a humanoid with a pair of wings. His whole body was smooth, like black metal, his eyes were pitch black, he had 2 horns on his head, and there were at least hundreds of eyes on his body. But these eyes were covered with a layer of smooth skin, which seemed to be a kind of defense. After seeing it, the Imperial Marshal Yuan Long exerted force on his feet. The terrifying speed directly tore through the air, bringing up a huge white airflow, and arrived in front of this strange existence. A huge sonic boom sounded, and the huge fist hit the strange monster head-on. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 528. The terrifying power burst out, directly knocking the monster back. It flew back and hit the wall of the sewer heavily, and a deep pit appeared. After the giant hit, he did not stop at all, took a big step, and rushed towards the strange existence like a tiger pouncing on its prey. In the deep pit, countless black lights blasted out densely, instantly covering the oncoming Yuan Long. Ah! The light completely submerged Yuan Long, and a roar and scream burst out from it. A piece of green light exploded instantly, forming a violent impact that swept around. A layer of green crystals appeared in the dense black light, blocking them all. And Yuan Long was behind the light, holding the green crystals with both hands, exerting force with his feet, with a ferocious face, and rushing towards the deep pit frantically. His body was covered with fine wounds, some of which were deep enough to see the bones, but these wounds were recovering rapidly at this time. However, the destructive power of these dense black lights is very amazing. Yuan Long cultivates the power of the weird side, focusing on the strength of the body. His body can even withstand the repeated changes of high temperatures of tens of thousands of degrees and low temperatures of more than 200 degrees below zero, and has even ignored some physical properties. Even the heavy artillery and laser weapons of the Empire cannot break his defense in one shot. But this extremely heavy defense was actually directly broken by the black light shot by this weird existence. If he hadn't used his other weird power at the critical moment, it would probably be penetrated within a dozen seconds. A trace of horror rose in the heart of the second Marshal Yuan Long. Sensing the danger of this weird existence, he immediately accelerated the speed of the impact. With the concentrated fire of the light, like a cannonball, he rushed into the deep pit. The deep pit was 5 meters deep. The second Marshal Yuan Long instantly pushed the green crystal barrier in front of the weird existence and pressed it against the wall of the deep pit. At the same time, his hands blasted out like heavy artillery, passing through the green crystal without any obstruction and falling heavily on the strange existence. His hands were covered with black strange power, full of a destructive power. The most peculiar thing was that his hands were not blocked by the green crystal barrier he created, as if the barrier did not exist. Obviously, this was because the green crystal was the reason for the strange power he mastered. Countless heavy punches continued to fall on the strange existence, leaving dents on his body. After being hit hard, the strange existence immediately fought back, waving its claws wildly to scratch the green crystal. At the same time, countless black lights shot out from its eyes all over its body, each of which was only as thick as a thumb. Crazy tearing everything around, countless stones on the top began to fall and hit them. Boom! With a loud bang, the entire deep pit seemed unable to withstand the cutting of the black light, and collapsed directly, submerging Yuan and the strange existence. But the battle did not stop. Two figures suddenly rushed out from the collapsed soil and rocks and rolled into the sewage gathering place in the center of the sewer. Rumble. Huge collision sounds continued to sound, and black and green lights continued to collide in the center of the sewer, which was almost a disaster. The walls and sewage flew around, and the entire sewer was in a mess. At the same time, countless sewer weird beings crawled out of the ground frantically. These weird beings are basically the size of a human head, with sharp mouthparts and claws, and will kill everything they see. Some ordinary people hid at home and saw these terrifying weird beings coming out of the toilet sewer, and they immediately gave out violent fright and screams. At this time, in a family of 3 was hiding in the bedroom. The husband was holding a baseball bat and was looking out the window vigilantly, his face full of trepidation. As long as something rushed in from the window, he would do his best to kill the other party and protect his wife and children. Snap, snap, snap. Hiss, hiss. Strange friction and shouting sounds suddenly came from the living room, and the man's face changed. His wife also looked ugly, obviously hearing the strange sound from the living room. And their son, only 7 or 8 years old, was held in his mother's arms with a look of bewilderment. The man immediately moved his position and stood behind the door. He faced the door nervously, and if there was any danger rushing in, he would attack at the first time. Bang, bang, bang. The door suddenly vibrated, as if something was hitting it. The family of 3 held their breath and concentrated, and the child seemed to be aware of the fear at this time. He looked a little scared and buried his head in his mother's arms, not daring to look outside at all. The father held the bat nervously, his palms were sweaty, and his breathing was a little heavy. He was also shaking slightly. Looking at his frightened wife, he couldn't help but regret that he should study martial arts more diligently. Originally, the world's spirituality was revived, and everyone could learn freely. As long as they worked hard, they could easily cultivate to the peak of the mortal path without any resources. The only thing they needed to pay was time and patience, but because they couldn't bear the hardship, they were lazy. Now they have just entered the stage of penetrating the body, and even the essence can't leave the body. They have no ability to resist the weird existence. But now their family can only rely on themselves. Since last night, the weird invasion has spread all over the internet. Dong dong dong. The door suddenly stopped hitting after several times. The door was tough, and it seemed that the strange existence was not very powerful. The man breathed a sigh of relief, and he also realized that the strange existence did not seem to be very powerful. Maybe I can kill it. Just when he had some ideas in his mind, a hole was suddenly punched through the door. Chiji. A strange sound suddenly sounded, but it was 2 sharp pliers that pierced the door. A strange eye looked at the man from the pierced hole. It was a pair of cold, dark eyes. Just looking at it, the man froze all over. Then more pliers pierced the door from all parts of the door. Click. Bang bang bang. The violent sound made the man's wife scream. Ah, hurry up, kill them. Woo 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 mom. The woman's cry stimulated the child in her arms, and she cried. The cries and shouts of his wife and children made the man even more nervous, and at this time, a strange creature that seemed to have transformed from a bug had squeezed in through the broken gap in the door. It was a strange creature covered with shells, with sharp jaws and sharp pincers growing on both sides of its body. As it squeezed in, the man's face showed fear, and then he suddenly raised the bat and smashed it on the monster's head. Puff! The huge force instantly crushed the monster, but the second monster had already drilled in. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Xuanhuan Luan Tianji. Chapter 529. The strange insect suddenly jumped up and rushed towards the man's face. The man had never had any actual combat experience, and when faced with the strange presence coming towards him, he suddenly looked frightened. He raised his bat and moved towards the charging shell monster. Bang! The huge force knocked the carapace monster flying directly and hit the wall hard. Under the huge impact, the man's arm holding the baseball involuntarily bounced up, and the middle door opened wide. At the same time, severe pain came from the man's leg. In severe pain, he looked at his feet with fear. The monster he was supposed to kill actually bit his leg, and his body was recovering quickly. The damaged parts grow and recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. The man looked down and saw that the strange being who was supposed to be killed by him was actually recovering quickly, with a look of fear on his face. Severe pain shot up his left calf. Click. The strange pliers suddenly pinched off his calf, and the sound of fracture made the man feel even more severe pain. At this moment, the strange being that he had knocked away suddenly jumped up from the side and pounced on his face. Puff puff puff. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, and he fell to the ground, struggling wildly. It hurts. Help! Help! But it was already too late. These weird monsters kept getting in through the gap in the door. Like a hunting dog, it pounced on him and swung its large pincers, tearing him into pieces. And more strange carapace-like beings pounced on his wife and son. The whole room was filled with human tragedy, and screams kept ringing out. It hurts. Mom. Finally, after a few minutes, the screams slowly stopped and disappeared completely. The only sounds left in the room were the sound of sharp objects cutting bodies and the sounds of chewing. It was like purgatory on earth, with blood everywhere and covering the room. Just as the strange beings in the carapace were feasting, a huge combat robot suddenly jumped into the room from the window. Wow! The huge noise alerted these strange beings. Brilliant laser swords continued to slide by, and these strange carapace existences were instantly cut into pieces and fell to the ground. At the same time, a strange energy wave spread out from the body of the combat robot and quickly enveloped the entire bedroom. This energy wave was so powerful that it instantly destroyed everything in the room and shattered everything into pieces. Not even the bodies of this family could escape the fate of being crushed. Cruel scenes took place in every corner of the city. There are even some extremely terrifying creatures appearing directly in some cities. It was a terrifying and strange existence at the level of earthly immortal Deo. As soon as it appeared, it caused an uproar and a huge disaster. In the center of a city in the Red Lotus Empire, a strange black mist was spreading towards the 4 weeks. The source of the mist is a toad-like monster whose whole body is filled with countless fine holes. Countless mists spewed out from the hole. Everything decays wherever it passes, especially life. Once it comes into contact with this mist, it will rot all over in a short period of time, and finally turn into a pile of bones. The city's imperial forces were also completely unable to resist. Even those combat robots were as fragile as toys in front of this fog. The fog directly covered an area with a radius of 1 kilometer. The weird existence in the form of a toad began to move continuously, and eventually the entire city was enveloped in this fog. At first, the city still echoed with the sounds of fighting and even shelling. But after the fog spread throughout the city, everything disappeared, and dead silence became the only sound here. And this is just one city that was destroyed. In this short period of time, at least more than 100 cities turned into dead places overnight. The empire has sent all its strength. The major sects and strange side forces also took out their own people to protect the nearby cities. In just one night, nearly half of the large, medium, and small cities in the empire fell. Most of those that were brutally destroyed were third and fourth tier cities. Because these cities lack real masters, only cities with Earth Immortal Deo masters can withstand the first wave of impact. It was only late at night, and the night had not yet passed. The fighting was still going on, and the sounds of fighting were heard in cities one after another. At the same time, a great chaos began to occur at the North Pole. In the huge hollow in the center, the giant egg that had been suspended in front of the gate to another world slowly shattered. A figure walked out of it, wearing a black robe and a bare head of ancient painting gray, which seemed to have completed his final transformation. With him as the center, the area within a 3-meter radius was automatically distorted, and countless black strange powers permeated the distortion. Ai Ching below bowed his head respectfully, knelt on the ground with one knee, and covered his chest with his right hand, as if facing his master. Gu Huai's eyes were very cold, completely devoid of human emotions, as if he was an existence from another world. A cold voice slowly came from his mouth: the third level of transformation has finally been completed. Becoming a complete weirdo. Destruction is the only ending in this world, and all living beings will die equally. All classes, conflicts, and desires will disappear from the world. Are you ready? Ai Ching's voice sounded slowly: Great Weird One, we are ready. Then let the trial officially begin. As the words fell, the sealed space slowly opened. Endless black liquid pours out, and the door to the other world is also spewing out more black liquid. A black liquid like sea water flows around the entire North Pole. Countless strange beings continue to appear from this black liquid, most of which are flying types. Some have actual forms, while others are illusory and as elusive as ghosts. They rushed toward the second-level strange illusion that besieged the North Pole and blocked their way out. Ai Ching and Gu Huai were floating in the sky, and their eyes were looking in the direction of the front-line headquarters of the northern province of Red Lotus Realm. Ai Ching's voice was low as he said, Our people in various places have already launched the final plan. The Red Lotus Empire is now nearly half occupied. They have no backup. Just break the blockade of the second-level weird illusion. With our military strength, we can directly break through all their blockades. Even the large formations set up by the cultivators can't stop tens of millions of troops. When we destroy the army outside, it will be equivalent to wiping out half of the resistance in the Red Lotus realm. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 530. As time goes by, the balance of victory will continue to tilt towards us. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow Yanji Shenyang. In the end, all people will equally welcome the arrival of death. There was no emotion in Ai Ching's words, as if his last bit of humanity had dissipated. Gu Huai's cold voice sounded, He, these stupid humans. They think they can master strange powers, but they will never know that they are just pawns of strange powers. Thinking of this, a trace of cold light appeared in his eyes. Let me tell them what despair is. Swoosh. In an instant, Gu Huai had turned into a phantom and disappeared in front of Ai Ching. When he appeared again, he had come to a second-level strange illusion. Gu Huai's appearance was captured by the army surveillance personnel outside the barrier. At the first time, the front-line command headquarters sounded a violent alarm. Woo-woo. Danger is coming, and the entire command center instantly became nervous. One after another, big figures quickly appeared in the combat meeting room. The captured picture also appeared on the big screen. Lin Donglei, the imperial marshal of the command center, looked at Gu Huai who appeared in front of the second-level weird illusion in the picture, and his face changed drastically. Gu Huai, the leader of the White Gloves, how did he become like this? Zhao Wuxuan, the vice president of the Weird Association, stood up from his seat in shock when he saw Gu Huawei's appearance. This is a weirdo. Not good, he has stepped into the peak of weird power. I will notify the president immediately that Gu Huawei has appeared. But at this moment, Gu Huawei looked at everyone in the command center, as if he saw them, and a strange smile appeared on his face. A voice came to everyone's mind, "Hello, humble humans." Hearing this, everyone trembled all over, fear appeared on their faces, and unreasonable fear rose from their hearts. They couldn't even suppress this fear, and their bodies were shaking instinctively. Lin Donglei's face changed. What's going on? At this time, several people with lower cultivation in the conference room had fallen to the ground in fear. They struggled frantically, grabbing their chests with their hands. In an instant, it was as if their sternums were dug open. Ah! No, no. It seemed that they saw some horrible picture. They dug out all their internal organs in their increasingly frantic struggle. This horrible scene instantly stimulated everyone. All the existences at the level of Earth immortals were using their strength to suppress the fear in their hearts. This kind of fear seemed to form an illusion in people's minds. Ha ha ha. The cold laughter of Gu Huawei kept replaying in everyone's mind. Really weak, as humble as a bug. It would be better to die obediently. At this time, Gu Huawei in the picture raised his right hand. The next moment, his arm exploded, turning into a black torrent, falling towards the second-level weird illusion. These countless black torrents rushed into the second-level strange illusion in an instant. It can be seen with the naked eye that the area originally covered by the second-level illusion was a piece of illusion and transparency, no different from the outside world. But at this time, the speed visible to the naked eye in this area became pitch black, and countless strange creatures drilled out of this black. They rushed towards the second-level energy barrier. Countless forces exploded in an instant, and the energy barrier shattered without even a second. At this time, the third-level barrier, one after another connected cultivation array has been deployed at the same time. Flames, thunder, ice, hurricanes, rivers, and torrents, infinite brilliance rose in one after another array. All the strange existences that rushed into it were instantly submerged. They were crushed into pieces under the power of the array, and all kinds of strange existences, whether tangible or intangible, would be wiped out under the power of the array. In the sky, countless energies are gathering towards the array, and the masters of the major sects are urging the array to close the sky, the earth, and everything. The huge roar was deafening, and the various colors of light completely submerged the broken energy barrier, turning it into a brand new barrier. Sect masters, representatives of the 33 sects on the front line, and Taoist Master Janai were presiding over the Dao sect formation at this time. His thoughts rang in the minds of the 33 sect disciples. All the formations must be activated with all their strength, and they must not be allowed to rush out. I have sent a letter to the head of the Dao sect, and the immortals from the major sects will arrive soon. Everyone, hold on. The immortal masters will come, and no matter how strong these things are, they can't stop the great power of the immortals. At this time, the elders and disciples of the major sects were slightly relieved when they heard this. At the same time, they began to do their best to quidong the formation, strangling any strange existence that entered the formation. In the distant sky, the ancient painting Gray saw the power of the formation, and a hint of coldness appeared in his eyes. The ancient sect really has some means. However, when the door to the other world is opened, everything will be destroyed, even your sect is the same. At this time, the torrent in his right hand was still connected to those second-level strange illusions, and a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. Destroy it? Rumble. 8 terrifying muffled sounds exploded, and countless cracks appeared on the revealed second-level strange illusions. A torrent of strange power spurted out, and all the strange beings bound in it rushed out the moment the illusion broke. At this time, the real Daoist presided over the Dao sect's great formation, the Tiangang Disha inverted formation, and there were 10 times more strange beings in an instant. This Tiangang and earthly evil formation is extraordinary. It forms a self-contained void, covers an area of tens of kilometers, and is presided over by hundreds of Dao sect disciples. Each of the altars presides over their own party, and even hundreds of thousands of strange beings can be accommodated in them. Moreover, by reversing perception, any strange existence would not be able to find their true identity and location. In addition to trapping people, the Tiangang Earth Evil inverted formation also has offensive techniques. It is connected with the light energy of the 9 heavens and the Earth Evil energy below. At this time, in the void of this great formation, all kinds of natural powers of heaven and earth are constantly manifesting, and the weird existences in it are constantly being eliminated. The lower the level, the faster you die. The hurricane blew, and the strange existence was torn into pieces when it touched it. The magma and flames washed away, and everything in its path was burned to ashes. In the void, meteorites continued to fall, hitting the strange beings piled one after another. There was almost no luck, and everything that was hit was shattered into pieces in an instant. Countless natural powers continued to evolve in the formation, and the formation that was originally able to handle it with ease immediately fell into danger.